Oh man, that Eastern Bluebird has got a groove. Welcome to the Bird Talk Show. I'm so glad you're here today. We have got a fantastic show in store for you. Dr. Anthony Mazerall from the Amazon Research Center down there in Peru, the Ornamental Fish Research Center, is going to be our special guest. And man, I so appreciate Dr. Anthony making time for us today. Spur of the moment. I didn't give this guy time to prepare for anything. We had a schedule meltdown here at the Bird Talk Show, and Dr. A was so kind to agree to come share some time with us today. So you're going to love this guy. I'm just telling you, you're going to, everything about what Dr. Anthony is going to talk about is going to satisfy the mental need at this time of your day, whether you're watching the replay or watching this live stream at 1 p.m. Eastern here Wednesday. We're going to have some good nature talk. We're talking about tropical ecology, how impactful that is. It spans any type of animal that you like. Of course, we're partial to birds here. Tropical ecology is important and impactful. This is going to be soothing. It's going to connect you to nature. It's going to make your life better. Probably your blood pressure will go down, and it'll distract you from who's been bugging you. Now, none of those are professional opinions. I'm just a guy on the internet, but it certainly is the experience I have every time I have the treat of speaking to someone the caliber of Dr. Anthony. It's going to be the same for you. Just hang around. You'll see. If you like this kind of content, if you like the Bird Garden channel, the Bird Talk Show, bringing special guests all the way from Peru, parts unknown even, hit the like button. Go ahead and let the algorithm know that we're doing something that you appreciate, and maybe others will. Maybe they'll share this channel out there. We'll bring some new friends in, talk about birds and tropical ecology and things like that. If you're not subscribed to the Bird Garden channel yet, go ahead and do that. What are you waiting on? That gives you the opportunity to hit the bell icon. When you hit the bell icon, not only do you get notifications every time we upload new content like this, edited videos, special trips, special events. Oh man, recently we started getting some tips. I've got an informal tip line, and as the tips come in, I'm able to share those on the community tab in real time. So if you're a subscriber, you'll also get notifications. If you hit that notification bell, whenever we have updates and real-time releases via the community tab. Now, I've also used that to promote other people's channels and other people's playlists that I think are interesting and think you might also find interesting right there in the community tab. The only way you get it is to subscribe and hit the bell icon, which sends you notifications from the Bird Garden channel. Now, that's all the commercial that we're going to do, because I've got Dr. Anthony in the green room. I'm going to go back here and see if I can get him now. Ready or not, let's see if we can bring our guest up. Dr. Anthony of the Amazon Research Center. How are you doing, sir?
You put too much pressure on me. You hate me too much. I mean, I'm just a doofus, okay? That's all I am.
That's probably why we relate so well.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, that looks like a patch for the Ornamental Fishes Research Center there. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this is in honor of one of my favorite TV shows of all time, which was Stargate. And so Teal'c had a golden, tattoo in his head signifying which god he was the first prime for. And so I'm the first prime of the Amazon Research Center for ornamental fishes.
Wear your colors right there on your forehead.
That's right.
My one of my college professors saw that I had a degree after I'd walked across the stage, and he said, you ought to get that tattooed on your forehead so everybody knows you got one.
That's right.
I'm not sure what he meant by that.
Well, like I told my family, after I received my PhD, I wasn't going to be uppity at all, but I told them, you can still call me by my first name, but I just legally changed my first name to Doctor. So I want you all to call me Doctor.
Fantastic. Yeah. That's fantastic. Now, I'm fond of calling you Dr. A. Is that okay to shorten
that? You can call me A, just as long as you don't call me Dr. A-double-S. That's fine with me.
Wouldn't think of it. We don't allow that here. We got
okay, neither do I.
I'm going to keep an eye on the chat over here. If we get a question, I'm going to pass it along to you. In the
Okay.
meantime, I want the Bird Garden channel and the Bird Talk show viewers to get a little acquainted with you, Dr. Anthony. Tell us about your project, the Amazon Research Center for Ornamental Fishes.
So the Amazon Research Center for Ornamental Fishes, or as we affectionately call it, ARCOF, ARCOF, because Amazon Research Center for Ornamental Fishes is a mouthful.
Sure.
So
I like ARCOF.
Yeah, ARCOF. We started it, my wife and I and a few of colleagues in Peru purchased some land back in 2010 that became available in a small village. They were going to build homes on it, let people build homes on it, and then it became available for us to buy it. So we bought it for not a bad price. There was 5 of us at the time. Along the way, the 3 of the people moved on with their lives, so I actually bought their portions of the land back, the money they put in. But it wasn't until probably 6 years ago that my wife and I really decided to go full bore into the research center. We are the only research center in the world that is devoted solely to ornamental fishes, aquarium fishes. There are plenty of research centers that do some ornamental fish research, but their prime interest is food fish. And there's a series of federal research labs in Peru that do food fish as their main emphasis, may do a little aquarium fish on the side. Right now we have 4 or 5 buildings on site, a office, wet lab, not wet lab, but microscope lab, chemistry lab set up. We have a large fish room that we use to do research in. We research things as diseases of ornamental fishes of the area, looking at natural remedies. We also use it as a quarantine site for fishes that we put in the public aquarium. We have a dormitory complex. And I use the term for our dorms that they are American comfortable.
Okay. Oh,
American
wow.
comfortable is much different than comfort around the world. So we have hot and cold running water, which is a premium there. Not many people have it unless you go to the hotels. Everybody in the dorm rooms have their own bathroom. There is a washer and dryer, which dryers are very practical, because if you dry things outside with 100% humidity, it doesn't dry. It kind of just
makes sense.
Yeah, it kind of reeks after a while. The mold starts to set in.
So you've gone to extreme use of resource, time, energy, money.
Yes,
to make this an actual field station.
An actual field station where, our primary interest at the research center is fish, ornamental fishes. But that does not negate people who are interested in, botany, tropical ecology for botany, or herpetologists, or even ornithologists come and use the facility as a place to station all their stuff out of. We have 4 dorms right now.
Cool.
We're going to be building more dorms in the future. At the time, we had to make a decision: do we build more dorms or do we build a public aquarium? And we thought it would be best to build a public aquarium before we build the second story onto our dormitory complex, because we are a education center. We do research, but we are an education center. We bring in local fishermen to teach them how to sustainably breed ornamental fishes, so they can rely less on the wild-caught specimens. We're not saying don't catch those fish, because that's your livelihood. But during the wintertime, I'm thinking of American, but during the rainy season, when they really can't catch fish, if they have these ponds set up, they can still harvest fish to sell.
Well, what you touched on there, I find very important, and that is being culturally sensitive to where you are.
Yes.
And forwarding that cultural sensitivity with a message of sustainability.
Yep.
Not just for the ecology, but for the the financial well-being of the native.
Yep. Yeah. That's the worst thing to be as anybody is to go in and say, this is what you should do, especially as Americans. That Americans were known around the world to say, this is what you have to do. No,
Colonizers, I think.
I'm not arrogant enough to think that I know what's best for the people of the area. They tell me what's important to them, and then we try to, build sustainability around what's important to them.
Excellent. I told you guys, Dr. A, that's awesome. Thank you for that effort. And you're right. You seem to stand out in that way, because so often people take a packaged program someplace else and they just drop it.
Yep.
And I don't think that is as effective as what you're doing. And I recognize what you're doing with that element it requires more work, more patience.
Yes.
Maybe more resources.
Yes. Unfortunately, yes.
Okay, so I've got a. This is from your website. I'm sharing the screen here of the Amazon Research Center, and you do research there. Okay, it's a research center. That makes sense. Tell me about some of the research that's going on, including what this fish is doing in this person's hand.
That fish is just, it's a nice little pretty wood cat. I like catfishes in general. We actually had a researcher come to the facility last summer who worked on Corridor's catfish. His main research is looking at self-poisoning in Corridor's catfish.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what he was doing for his main research. But he also was looking at some other catfish, the microglanus catfish, to look at whether or not there are different species within the Iquitos region. My main research is on the effect of invasive fish species in the area. And so that's my main research in Iquitos.
Excellent. And so do you keep these fish on site in ponds, aquariums, or do you go outside the research center and collect them in the wild?
We do all of the above.
Oh, cool.
We do have ponds on site to use as demonstration ponds for the local fishermen, and to show that you can sustainably breed some of these fish in captivity. And so it's important to us to show, the locals that we can do this. We are not a retail wholesale facility. We do not sell any of the fish that we produce.
Let me repeat that.
Yep.
The research center does not sell fish.
That's right. Okay. Exactly.
So that'll hopefully you won't get.
Oh, I get
answer that question 10 more times.
I get requests on Facebook every day for people wanting my price list. Because they think that's what you do in Iquitos. But the fish that we do produce on site, we either keep them on site and put them in our public aquarium, or we actually are licensed by the Ministry of Fisheries and Ministry of Production to try to reestablish some of these rare species that we're producing in our ponds, to try to reestablish their populations back in the wild. In fact, we are the only receiving center for confiscated fish. Iquitos is the number one, that's where all the exportation comes out of Peru. No matter where they're caught, they are all shipped up to Iquitos first. And so there's a lot of black market fish that are leaving Iquitos in the airport. Mm-hmm. When they confiscate those fish, we actually get them and receive them at the research center. And
well, that said, is there a direction you could give the consumer, the end user, the aquarium fish buyer, that maybe could help them ensure they're not getting these black market fish?
One of the laws that Peru has is that any fish that is a food fish cannot be legally exported. So if you see a tigrinus catfish, which is probably the most beautiful catfish in Peru, and it's exported out of Peru, know that was black marketed. There hasn't been any legal Tigrinus catfish exported out of Peru for the last 5 years. And so, that's important to know where your fish comes from, no matter what country, Brazil, Peru, if you're a marine person, Indonesia or whatever, to know where these fish are coming from.
Okay. So again, thinking of the non-researcher, the layperson,
Yes.
do you have facility or capacity to host civilians for tours or education programs there at the research center?
Yes, we do. We have 2 programs. We have an internship volunteer program that we host people. The minimum stay is 3 weeks, because if you're going to be trained, we want to utilize that training that we train you for. And so, the only difference between an internship and a volunteership is your age. Most college students want internships. Most old guys like you and I want volunteerships. We don't care about internships. And
Right.
and so we do host, you come for 3 weeks or more, you get housed and you get fed at the facility. So you live there in the dormitories where I live and where my wife and I live. So we're under the same conditions that you are.
Well, tell me about that food. What are we eating while we're there?
You can eat any, we cook. My wife and I are the cooks.
Oh, wow.
So we cook Western style food. We cook Peruvian food. Most Peruvians eat chicken as their mainstay.
Yep.
Even though it's a fishing area, it's surrounded by 3 rivers. Fish tends to be special occasion. And there are some people that eat fried fish every day. My wife doesn't allow me to eat fried foods anymore. My wife's a nurse. She runs cardiac programs and neuro programs for the hospital. So, there are certain
Great to have around.
There are certain things she won't let me eat. I haven't tasted white rice in a long time. We only allow brown rice, which is better for you. So, yeah, we could cater to people's needs. If you're a vegetarianism is very easily accommodated there.
Nice.
You can, if you're into soy products, you can get, soy products, but there's a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruits there. Tropical fruits in Iquitos are just wonderful. And a lot of these fruits people have never tasted.
Well, I don't want to gloss. You have put a lot of extra effort into this research center, making it American friendly, civilian friendly,
Yes.
catering to students and lay people alike, while being sensitive to the local culture. And I want to salute that effort and let you know that I do recognize it. I'm happy to support that and promote it here on the Bird Talk Show. Thank you again for being our guest. Now, I'm looking at this picture of the fish pond.
Yes.
With lots of lush vegetation around. I'm thinking if I had a pair of binoculars, I could find a bird or 2 around there.
Oh, there's plenty of birds. There's, a couple flocks of parrot type birds that come through that roost right outside in the trees adjacent to our land. And they squawk every night and every morning. They will.
What's interesting to a bird watcher's ear when you say that is I see parrots in Texas, in Florida, but they're not what bird listers consider countable.
That's right.
They've been released from captivity or so forth. They're not an indigenous population. What you're talking about are countable parrots. That's very attractive.
Countable by, I know it's if for those, some people think it's a bad word, those life listers, one counts as 1,000, but in some of these trees there's 500-600 birds that come in roost. So
wow,
it's not like you're just seeing once and it's a rare sighting. It's every day, every night they're coming in. Okay,
so you mentioned you're surrounded by 3 rivers. So the research center is inland.
It's inland, yes. We're about in miles, about 7 miles from the city center of Iquitos, Peru, which is in the very northeast corner of Peru. Population of about 700,000 people. And we're about 7 miles south on the only road that leads out of Iquitos. Iquitos is a city where you can only get to it by flying or taking a boat from the mouth of the Amazon over 1,000 miles away to get into the city. So it's almost it's an island city.
I see. What's population of Iquitos?
Iquitos' population about 700,000, which includes the city center and the little surrounding areas. It's getting bigger and bigger because people are moving away from their villages in the rainforest and into Iquitos, thinking that there's more opportunities for jobs. But there's a finite number of jobs in Iquitos, so it has a lot of problems associated with this mass influx of people.
So, and if I understand it, now correct me if I get out of my lane here, but as I understand it, if you can equip these local villagers and fishermen to raise and sell fish, that could keep them out of an industry that would involve deforestation.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to have to make money during the rainy season, and a lot of them do destructive type agriculture, destructive jobs in order to make ends meet. You can't blame them per se. They're trying to feed their families. They're not getting rich. They're not going out there trying to get as much money as they can. All they're trying to do is support their families.
Yeah, that's not a corporate greed response. That's personal need.
Yeah, and there are companies that go in and rape and pillage the forest. There's no doubt. But the fishermen we work with, they're not the problem. It's the big companies that are really the problems.
Well, and what we just did is we tied the knot between ornamental fish research and bird watching.
Yes.
With the trees. So we take care of the ornamental fish farmer, and we're taking care of the trees.
Exactly. Yes.
And there's a huge win-win that they'll never be separated. They definitely support each other.
Yeah. Everything in nature is intertwined, is interdependent upon each other. Just as we are, we don't think about what's going on around the world in destruction of forests, whether it's the Amazon rainforest or the forests in Indonesia, or even the forests of Northwest U.S. and the Pacific Northwest. It's all tied together. We all live on this planet, and we're all dependent upon all the organisms in the environment for our livelihood and our existence.
And yeah, that ties us all together. And that brings me to a question of, that being the case, that being true all over, how did you, Dr. Anthony, get drawn into tropical ecology, and specifically Peru?
I've always been interested in tropical ecology. My PhD and most of my early research was on coral reef ecology, fish ecology in the Red Sea. I worked on migration of coral reef fishes, daily migrations of coral reef fishes in the Red Sea for my PhD. And then after, I continued working in the Red Sea on mate acquisition of clownfish, Amphiprion bicentis, the two-bar clownfish. And this was way before Nemo. I didn't do clownfish because of Nemo. This was, back in, 1991, very early on. And so tropical ecology is something that I always did. Maybe because I grew up and was raised in the deserts of Southern California. And so, I always was drawn to water. I've had aquarium since I was 9 years old. So over 50 years, I've been an aquarium person, and with most of those fish being tropical fish. And so, that's always been a draw for me to understand and to try to contribute to tropical fish and tropical ecology.
I'd say you achieved that goal. Now, were you always into things natural since your childhood? Did someone force you outdoors?
Well, we didn't have computers.
Right.
I was born in 1960, so I'll be 62 this year, and
Wow.
there wasn't nothing like computers. We had a radio, we had television, but with 3 channels that you had to flip the channel. So if you're too lazy, you were forced to watch, whatever everybody else watched on that TV. And so, we were always
kid back then, you were the remote.
That's right. My dad would say, "Hey, go change the channel for me," and that's just how it was. We were always outside. I was an outside
That was
kid.
an exciting place to be. No video games to compete.
Yeah. My mom said, "Get out of the house."
So you were comfortable outdoors. You enjoyed the outdoors. You go through school. You get into college. When did you decide that biology was going to be your pursuit?
Well, I always knew it. My high school yearbook. What do you want to be? Mine was to be a marine biologist.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people had that. I grew up in the era of Jacques Cousteau, his specials, National Geographic specials.
And he was an OG influencer.
That's right. Regardless whether he was a scientist or not, he influenced the world with his documentaries and his adventures all around the world. And so I knew I wanted to go into marine biology, fish. I didn't know what I was going to do. I had no idea that I'd ever be a professor. That never even crossed my mind. My father was an elementary school and junior high school teacher.
Oh, okay.
For 35 years. So all I remember was him talking bad about the bad students. I'm sure he talked about the good students, but when you're a kid, you only hear the bad things. And so I because of that, I didn't think I wanted to teach. But the first class I ever TA'd in, I just fell in love with teaching. And so I knew I wanted to go into teaching. I knew very early on that my path would not be to a research institution. I love doing research, but some of my worst professors I've ever had in my life were the best researchers. And so I made a choice that I wanted to go into teaching at the university level because that's where I saw my greatest influence. And so, that's
very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing that. And so you described there your passion, and now we know that you're sharing your passion with the community through live streams. You're all over the place, very giving with your time. We all appreciate that. Me especially today, getting you in here with no warning. I apologize for that. How rude.
I was drinking my coffee this morning.
Minding your own business.
I am minding my own business.
Yeah, there he is. He must want something. Yeah. But you came through for it because it's your passion. And thank you. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us, Dr. A. And I'm sure anyone who visits or participates in the research center can see that shining through. So where are you now physically?
I am in my living room or family room. You can see my big tank behind me. In California, I actually leave for Peru tomorrow night.
Okay, just before you left.
That's right. I teach courses tomorrow, Tuesday, Thursday, or my teaching schedule, and right after my ecology course that I teach, it's over at 2:30. I hop on my car and pick up my wife so she can drive the car back from LAX. So I leave actually tomorrow afternoon for Peru. It's our spring break for the university, so I'm spending it in Peru. Trying to get everything, the last minute details to open up the public aquarium on June 24th. That's
a worthy call. I'm sorry we're going to miss you at Fort Lauderdale during spring break.
I know. I was looking forward to going to Fort Lauderdale. I don't miss it. Every year I go there and party up with the young kids.
I guarantee you can teach those kids a thing or two. But I'm glad you're going down there and getting some work. Actually, speaking of LAX, Los Angeles International Airport, I've got some. Right now, it's fantasy travel, but I'm going to it's going to happen. I'm going to put it on paper, but it involves the transfer at LAX. And I discovered a bird list. Bird watchers often fly in and out of LAX, and so they've compiled a bird list I found online. And I thought, wow, if you can bird watch at an airport, that literally proves my point that birds are everywhere.
That's right.
The urban center, the peak of technology, people have compiled a species-long list of birds at an airport. So I'm going to be, while you're there, think of me. Think of us here at the Bird Garden channel. Look around LAX, see if you see any birds. Apparently you got a few.
I will look at it.
Now, this is where I want to set the hook.
Uh-oh.
You're getting ready to go to Peru. Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, got a nibble here. I'm going to see if I can reel you in. I wonder if you would give us some updates. Now, I mentioned using the community tab. While you're in Peru, and I know you're busy, you're not there to cater to all of these bird watching channels. But if there's an update or two that you could send us from Peru, I'd love to pass those along through the community tab on the Bird Garden channel.
I will for sure send you a short video.
Oh, wow.
Of the most obnoxious bird at the research center that sits in a tree right across the street from the research center and gawks all day long. I mean, it is obnoxious. Because
what they
so
say,
loud.
One man's noise.
I know. It's true. It's true.
We'd love to have that. I would definitely pass that along. And if as I pass that along, what's the message that I can send to the Bird Garden channel supporters that they can know more about your effort and maybe how to support you guys?
Go to our website. There's a couple of ways. As a small nonprofit, we live and die off donations. That's and we know.
Okay.
We know there's a lot of worthy nonprofits out there. The easiest way I tell people to support us is through Amazon Smiles. That's no money out of your pocket. The Amazon Smiles is a system that Amazon.com has set up. And a percentage of whatever you buy, Amazon donates to nonprofits. Sure, Amazon gets, the tax breaks, but it's really free money for these nonprofits. And I truly believe no matter what nonprofit you have your donations to, whether it's American Heart Association, American Cancer Society, Red Cross, whatever your passion is for nonprofits, I would say sign up for it. Of course, I would love you to say Amazon Research Center, but
it's just that easy, right? It's just
that you just buy all your Amazon stuff through smile.amazon.com, and it just sets it up for you, and you just pick your nonprofit.
And it's the same Amazon, same security, same service. It's just Amazon giving you money and claiming a tax break for themselves without charging any more.
Without charging any more,
for the merchandise.
1/10 of 1%, which we probably make about $100 a year from Amazon that goes directly to the nonprofit. But that's $100 that we wouldn't have normally.
Yeah, if you found it on the sidewalk, you'd bend over and pick it up.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Another thing you can do, and this is, I think, a fun thing, is right now, I hope you don't mind me mention this, we're having a raffle.
Oh, no, please. Yes.
That goes till the end of March. Tickets are limited. The raffle is for a free trip for two, including airfare, your room and board, to the research center in Iquitos. The only stipulation is that you have to be 18 or over to buy the tickets. Now, if you're a 17-year-old kid and your parents buy you a ticket, you can come, just as long as you're accompanied by someone over 18. And we will we'll custom your itinerary, even if that means go bird watching for a week.
Hey,
we have We know there's a bird watching group in Iquitos. There are tour guides in Iquitos that take people for bird watching tours. So if that's something you want to do, we can set that up for you. And then you come back and stay at the dorms, and you do that for a week. And so it's, it's $50 a ticket, but that's for 2 people. And if, you're
So
from Canada,
you're giving away a trip, $50 for a trip for 2.
Trip for 2.
Trip for 2.
And you can be anywhere in the world. The only thing is, if you're coming from Europe, is that we limit the airline to $2,000. In America, a typical round trip ticket to Peru right now, I checked for the summer because we have to make our plans to go in May, is about $800 each. So $2,000 would cover 2 people's tickets with no problem coming from North America.
That's amazing. That's cheaper than domestic flights I've taken.
Yeah. And this, it all goes to the research center. The money doesn't come directly to us. We work through a nonprofit group called Network for Good. So it's all on the up and up. They do all the accounting. They do all the processes for us. And so that way people know we're working with a company that works for nonprofits. It's not going into anybody's pockets. We at the research center, my wife and I and all the board of directors make zero money off the research center. We don't take salaries. We don't take anything. When we fly to Peru, we fly off our own penny. We don't take money out of the research budget or out of the research center budget. And so all that money goes directly to the research center in Peru. And so, we're very transparent.
Good to know.
We're, if people want to donate and they say, we want to see your books first to see where the money's going to, we're an open book. We have no problem showing people our financial statements to show that, where their money goes to. That's something my wife and I feel that's very important to us, is to be very
obviously, because why in the world would you do something like that?
Yeah. There are some nonprofits that take an administrative cost of 75-80%. Our administrative cost is zero. We never did this to make money. We will never see a penny from the research center. But that's the commitment we made very early on when my wife came to me, and we both said, okay, we either do this right or we don't do it at all. And we decided to do it right.
It's an amazing. I'm very fortunate that our paths crossed years ago
in
at the Aquatic Experience.
That's right.
Because the Aquatic Experience is a large national scale aquarium industry show. And you were there promoting the ornamental fish research in Amazon, which you had the small table over there, no fanfare.
And out there in the corner,
Wow. Look, this guy, he on his shoulders is this whole floor full of vendors. If we don't make sure that we're keeping the fish stream available, we don't have a need for a plastic pump.
Yeah.
And so it goes, the impact of your work goes far beyond the excellent effort you're doing at the research center. It's a world impact. I really do appreciate it. And I'm serious. I'm fortunate that our paths crossed. Unfortunately, you're not widely known yet.
No. Yeah.
We want to change that. We want to bring you to the forefront, at least heighten awareness to your research. And again, we are the Bird Talk channel, Bird Talk show on the Bird Garden channel, but we've got a marine biologist as a guest because the tropical ecology is so closely linked to bird health. And bird health is something we're concerned about, not only domestically, but also around the world. Now, we have in the United States, we have Hawaii, unfortunately known as Extinction Central in the bird world. And just as quickly as our birds have gone extinct, no sooner than we discover them, they're gone. It can happen in other places if we don't get our head wrapped around sometimes some very simple ideas. And Dr. Anthony and the Research Center, the Amazon Research Center, are doing just that. Here's where we are. Here's what we have. Here's what we can do going forward. And the more people that hear this simple message, the better chance all the ecology has. So we're happy to promote you, Dr. Anthony. I look forward to you letting us know how we can continue to do that. Certainly, check out this raffle. Dr. Anthony mentioned the Network for Good. Know that he's endorsed this company. That's not a spam company. No. Also, Amazon Smiles can go directly to him. And on the website, there's a tab you can see there on the screen that says donate. So there's three prongs that we just mentioned today, 3 ways you can help the Amazon Research Center for Ornamental Fishes. And listen, you hear me giving a total endorsement here. Dr. Anthony is doing something with 0 administrative costs, meaning he's not taking a paycheck. He's taking his spring break and money out of his billfold to fly down to Peru to get some things taken care of down there at the Research Center. And this is unheard of. This is rare. This is the needle in the haystack. So let's show him not only appreciation and applause, but let's figure out how we can help him. And one other thing you can do, you can share this live stream. I'm going to upload it as content after we finish the live stream here. You can share this on all of your social media, and you can have a great part. You become the newspaper, the news media. You become the microphone that has missed Dr. Anthony thus far. All you have to do is put it on your Facebook, your Instagram. It's a click. On YouTube makes it so easy. If you're watching this video, you can watch the replay. Just below the video, there's a little arrow that says share. Click on it. Any of the social media accounts you have, it will automatically share the link. I appreciate that. The Bird Garden channel wins. Dr. Anthony appreciates that. The Research Center wins. So there's something else you can do for free, just a little bit of time. Now, I hope you don't mind me doing a commercial for you there, Dr. Anthony. You just got me fired up there a little bit.
It's difficult for me to sit back and have people talk about me.
I know you're a humble soul. That makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah, very much so. I wanted to kind of hide when you're talking, but
it's hard for me to apologize for that because you've created such a wonderful message. It deserves to get out there. It just does. So we're going to do our part. I'm committed. Okay, we talked a little bit about you're kind of a lifelong nature appreciator. You got into college with the idea of becoming a marine biologist. You got into the study and decided, I want to be a teacher versus a researcher. You've made all of that come true. So what is the future of the Research Center? What are your goals?
Our goal is to really to become a valuable resource for the area. We're setting up an environmental education program for the school kids. And so 1 day a week, we're inviting the elementary schools of the area to come visit the Research Center to talk about what they have, this valuable resource they have. Many people, unless you're involved in the aquarium trade, only really know 5 or 6 fish that they have in their rivers, because these are the 5 or 6 fish that they eat.
Yeah.
And so there's about 900 species of fish in Peru.
How many?
900. Freshwater, there are over 300 fish in and around Iquitos that are exported for the aquarium trade.
Holy cow.
And so, it's a valuable resource for those people. And many of them don't even know what they have there. And so as we want to teach them about what's happening in their waters, the environmental degradation that is occurring through just their everyday existence, and how we can, as humans, how we can fight that to save these resources for the future. And so that's really what we see our role, and what we'll always see our role in the future, to be that environmental education resource for the people.
That is phenomenal. and you've got plans for the public aquarium. How far along are you on the public aquarium?
The aquariums are built. I spent all summer long building the aquariums. The glass is very expensive in Peru. So if you see the aquarium behind me, that is actually a plywood 2x4 tank with a front panel, 7-foot long front panel glass, 4 feet tall. That's been here for about 20 years. So it's very, very durable. So we decided that that's the type of tanks we were going to build in Peru. So we spent all summer building those. We have our largest tank is actually a 20-foot long tank that is plexiglass, one panel of plexiglass, 4 inches thick.
Man.
And then we have a tunnel tank that when you first go into the aquarium, the kids walk underneath this tunnel tank. So it's, they look above, they look to the side, and it's going to be filled with probably 10, 20,000 tetra, maybe 5 or 6 species.
I can already imagine.
So I go back in, tomorrow to do the finishing touches to start adding the water to the tanks, making sure they're completely cycled before we actually open up the aquarium on the 24th of June. Nothing worse than opening up your public space and having most of the fish not be there because it's not cycled. So we want to make sure that the tanks are completely cycled.
Well, I'm so glad that I asked. I had no idea you were that far along in your opening. You've got a grand opening scheduled for the 24th of June.
Yeah, there's a big public holiday in Iquitos on the 24th of June. And so we're trying to piggyback off that big public holiday, it's just a big celebration for the area. So why not? We could open up probably sooner, but why not, have it correspond to this big holiday?
Well, I'm sure you'll be getting some video clips of all the goings on there. We'd love to have some to pass along from that big opening day there at the aquarium.
We hope to live stream it because it's going to be a big celebration. The politicians of the area are going to be there. The Ministry of Fisheries of Production that we work hand in hand with. So we want to show people what they have.
Well, if you get the politicians, you'll also get the cameras. So that's good.
Yeah. Yes. We prefer not to have the politicians, but you have to work with what you got.
Yeah, you got to use the available resources. That's exactly right. Sometimes
there's a local elections that are going on this spring, and one of the politicians on his big billboards in the city say, "You elect me, I am going to establish more tourism for Peru. So I'm going to build a public aquarium." Now, he's just saying that. He's not going to build public aquarium.
Right.
But if he gets elected, he'll probably be there and say, "Look, I told you I was going to build it. Here it is." And, if he wants to take credit, we don't really care.
Well, good to know you did this because fish food. Here's the bill.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
Just send it on over. Yeah. Well, yeah. Politics is a strange animal.
Yeah.
But that.
Well, we don't talk about it. I'm sorry for getting on that little.
No, it's okay. Yeah, we didn't. We're not discussing politics. Yeah, that's off limits. But I do understand your local situation there. I perfectly understand why you mentioned that. But I understood the public aquarium when it was a dream, when it was an idea, and to know that it's built and an opening is scheduled is fantastic. So now what's next? What's the next big project that maybe hasn't come out of the ground yet?
We don't know. There's a couple more buildings. There are no fish collections in that area. Even their other research centers don't really have any fish collections. So we want to actually build, the word museum is not what people think, but a collections room to have specimens from all the different species.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, because there are still species being found, new species being found. A lot of epistogramma, some of the dwarf cichlids in the area are given just locality names, and so we would like to be a repository for those collections. So we'll have people coming in to do new species descriptions or things of that sort.
That's fantastic.
Come to the research center. There is a big museum in Lima.
Yeah.
The National Museum, but within Iquitos itself, and their portion of the Amazonian portion is not that extensive, and some of them are misidentified, and so we want to have specimens there on site that are identified specifically from the locality.
Okay, well I mean, every time you say something, I come up with 3 questions.
Okay.
What makes this interview easy. Thank you. So would you consider the physical plant then of the research center built out with the opening of the aquarium?
Oh, no. We, a collections room, we need to build an auditorium classroom space.
Okay.
Right now we're using the dining room, which is a fairly large dining room. And we've held seminars there with 30, 40 people. But that's everybody sitting right next to each other.
Right.
We would like to have an auditorium space with,
Sure.
tables and chairs, and, people have computer space and things like that. So
exactly.
That's at least 2 more buildings, plus the second story of the dormitory complex.
All right.
So once we have,
you got some buildings.
Yeah.
In the future. What about the grounds? How big are the grounds? How much property are you on?
We originally bought 2 hectares of land. Unfortunately, there are homestead laws in Peru. If someone puts a home on a piece of land, they can have ownership over that land. And so we lost about 1/3 of our land because a guy put a house on our land overnight, basically, in the pueblo, the village that we purchased the land from, said, well, that's the law. We didn't have clear and clean title at the time. In fact, the village didn't even have title to their land that they sit on. So that was about a 3-4 year process for us to get a clear title, a clean title for the land.
Jeez.
Yeah. So, and that's happening all over Iquitos. A lot of the secondary rainforests are being cut down because people will squat the land and build their little villages.
Wow.
So, you live and learn. It wasn't someone from the village. The village appreciates us being there because the people we hire to do all the work are from that village that we reside in. And so we're helping the village gain economically.
Sure.
Being there as well.
So you do have complete infrastructure. You've got running water. Do you have sewer?
We have a modern septic system, which is important to me because in Peru and in many South American, Latin American countries, toilet paper does not go down the toilet. It goes into a trash can right next to the toilet. And that trash can is emptied every night. I could never get used to that. I can't get used to that. As Americans, that's not our custom. No. And so I wanted to have a modern septic system. Yep. So we have a septic tank with a leach field. Again, American comfortable. Americans would not be used to that. And it's kind of hard for us to change old habits.
And when we hear you say American comfortable, that we may not appreciate it because that's everything we take for granted.
That's right. It's things we take for granted. And I wanted, and it wasn't an arrogance that Americans are better than everybody else. It was just that we're accustomed to a standard of living per se. We're used to doing things the way we do it. And even if it's different, we'll still go to that old routine without thinking about it. And, most of the sewage pipes in the area are 1-inch sewage pipes. And that's why you don't put toilet paper because it clogs it up. Well, we use 6-inch, that can handle that in a modern.
There you go. And that's the kind of thing that if you hadn't had taken that step, it could ruin a trip for an intern or a volunteer. They just made a mistake. I need to get out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay, so another question that came to mind when you were talking about the collection room. Is there an opportunity for you to become an affiliate or associated with the American Smithsonian Museum system as an outpost?
Possibly. Two of my friends that I know very well that are resident manager, they've been lifelong friends, actually work with the Smithsonian. When the Smithsonian comes down to Iquitos to do things, they are the two helpers for the Smithsonian. So potentially, we could collaborate. We could partnership with really any
Well,
American Museum of
I was
Natural
familiar
History.
that they did that with some outposts, and
Yeah.
that would definitely be good for everyone involved there. I have a friend at the Smithsonian that travels, does a lot of tropical ecology things, because as we've talked offline, we've got mutual friends, and we call them froggers.
Yes.
Because they keep frogs, in particular tropical frogs. I was the former chairperson of International Amphibian Day, and I met all of at the time, it was a small group, tight-knit family group, because we didn't have the internet up to full speed anyway, to share collections. And poison dart frogs were extremely hard to get and even harder to keep. Probably you shouldn't fool with keeping those if you don't do a lot of research before you get involved in that. But we had this group that included Pacific Northwest, California. I was known as the gentleman frog farmer from the great state of Tennessee.
Yeah.
That was an anomaly. This Appalachian Mountains guy, he's got these poison dart frogs. So, but our friend on my board from the Smithsonian, his name is Ed Smith. And he traveled on lots of expeditions with his colleague, Jack Cover from the National Aquarium. Both all over the tropical rainforest, collecting these frogs, studying the habitat, bringing them back and sharing with hobbyists and scientists and zoos. Here's what the habitat looks like. However you want to try to recreate it. It was a great puzzle to be at the head of the table and watch all of these pieces come together. And I know that the same thing can happen regardless of the organism that you're studying. And the key is sharing the information. And the key to sharing the information is public forum. Now, I don't want anybody who ever watches this live stream or video to take for granted what we have going on here. We've got access to Dr. Anthony Mazerall. He's putting eyes on the tropical ecology and the fish on the ground. He's boots on the ground, and he's reporting directly to us. This is amazing and phenomenal. And again, the thing we can do, take in, absorb, learn, enjoy. I love this conversation, and share. That has an impact beyond what we're able to do as individuals when we act as a community. So I'm glad to know that you've already thought of that. You've got connections at the Amazon. Is there any, and to conclude this thought with the final question, is there any opportunity to join with the National Museum in Lima as a partner?
Yeah, there is. So, the network in Peru is very small. Everybody knows each other. And so, there is a possibility. We just want to, make sure everything goes forward when we have the facilities before we actually say, okay, we're here, we can take collections, because it may be 5 years before we are able to build the collections room. It may be 2 years, we just don't know. And we don't want
depending on funding, right?
Well, yeah, depending on a lot of things. Yeah. Funding, things of that sort. And so, we want to make sure we have the infrastructure set up, or building the infrastructure before we try to enter into an agreement per se, only because, when you start entering in agreements, people expect things to happen right away. We have these, we have these 10,000 bottles of fish. We need a place to put them. We'll be over next week with a truck. Well, what do you do with them? Stack them outside, so we want to make sure we have everything ready.
That's a smart way to do it, not getting in over your head.
Yeah.
Well, I can't believe this, Dr. Anthony, but we've come to the end of our hour. Tom, this is something that we used to say in the frogging community. Time is fun when you're having flies.
That's right. Exactly. That's right.
And so those guys are fruit flies.
And frogs eat what bugs them.
Love it. Well, I'm gonna sign off here. I'm gonna put you back in the green room for a moment,
Okay,
if you don't mind, Dr. Anthony. I'll be
no
right with you.
problem.
Thank you so much for being our
Thank
guest.
you. I appreciate.
As you leave us here, do you have a final word you'd like to leave the Bird Garden viewers with?
Well, just that we're all interconnected here.
Love
Love
it.
your fish, love your rainforest, love your birds. We
Amen.
can't, they all depend upon each other.
Yeah, it's together. All right. Well, thank
That's
you,
right.
sir. I'll be right with you in the green room.
Okay.
Wow, what a conversation we were fortunate enough to have with Dr. Anthony Mazeroff. What a great guy, just a genuine guy sharing his passion about nature, ecology. Lives out there in California right now, flying over to Peru to run the Research Center for Ornamental Fishes and keeping the ball rolling. He's got dormitories, he's got a cafeteria, public aquarium, outdoor ponds. It's all kinds of opportunities for volunteers and interns. He shared with us a few ways we can directly help. If you're just now tuning in, be sure and watch the replay. Catch up on how you can help Dr. A out. One thing that I mentioned is to share this video. That would be a direct help to the Amazon Research Center for Ornamental Fishes and Dr. Anthony. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. I love hitting the thumbs up, but sometimes I forget. So I appreciate it when someone reminds me. We'd love to have you as part of the Bird Garden channel family if you'll hit that subscribe button. And as you heard Dr. Anthony say, he's going to send us live updates from the rainforest. He's going to send us a video of an obnoxious bird that lives down there at the Research Center. I'm going to share it with you guys as soon as I get it in real time on the community tab. You've got to subscribe and hit that bell icon if you want to be in touch with these happenings and more, including clips from the tropical rainforest, compliments of Dr. Anthony. I can't believe our time has gone so quickly. We've gone our 60 minutes. All of you that tune in for the live stream, so glad you were here. If you're watching the replay, you guys are replay strong. I tell you, thank you so much for watching that replay. If you've got a comment you want to leave in the video below, I'll be happy to pass those comments along to Dr. Anthony. I'm sure he'll view this video and check in also. So you will get a response if you comment on this video. And we're going to do this again next week. We'll have another topic, and it's going to be fun too. I won't reveal it right now. But until the next time, why don't you get out there and see some birds?